You may not know it, but King's Dominion is in huge trouble. The future of King's Dominion is in danger, and I figured out what's really going on. You don't want to miss my thoughts on the future of King's Dominion and the truth about Volcano's replacement. King's Dominion is opening their newest coaster this year, but a 4D free spin isn't really a good replacement for Volcano, unless it isn't really Volcano's replacement. To understand the truth about King's Dominion and Cedar Fair's secret plans for this park, we need a little backstory. King's Dominion was bought by the Cedar Fair chain in 2006 and was flooded with 2 new massive thrill machines in 2008 and 2010. But after that, they wouldn't get a new coaster for another 8 years. Not only that, but King's Dominion's recent coaster additions have gotten cheaper and cheaper. Intimidator 305 in 2010 was $25 million. Twisted Timbers in 2018 cost $10 million. Now Tombalai for 2022 likely costs around $7 or $8 million. It's never a good thing for a chain park to get cheaper and cheaper investments. Cheaper investments usually shows the park is underperforming and the investments aren't paying off for the chain. Is King's Dominion on track to become a bottom-tier Cedar Fair park and go decades with no new coaster after this? King's Dominion's revenue during the past few years has also been declining, and rumors are it's almost as low as Dorney Park's revenue. Though take this with a grain of salt, cause I couldn't find any data backing this up. There were also rumors that Twisted Timbers gave a park a 0% increase in attendance, and I can't imagine Tombalai will help that much, especially with Pantheon opening around the same time. Overall, it seems King's Dominion has been getting worse and worse over time, and a lot of people have begun to think they're in huge trouble and are on track to become a bottom-tier Cedar Fair park. However, that's not the case. I figured out what's going on with King's Dominion, and once you hear my theory, everything will make sense. It explains why they have been getting cheaper coasters and what Cedar Fair plans for the future of this park, and trust me, it's a lot better than you think. Cedar Fair bought the 5 Paramount parks, including King's Dominion, in 2006. But they did something really strange. If you look at the investments they gave to each park, you notice that King's Dominion got the most and biggest investments in the beginning. Cedar Fair gave King's Dominion a B&M Floridas in 2008 and an Intimate Giga in 2010. The other 4 former Paramount parks didn't see that much love from the chain right away. California's Great America, the smallest of them all, got no new coasters until 2013, and Kings Island got 1 coaster in 2009 and had to wait another 5 years for their next. Canada's Wonderland got a B&M Hyper in 2008 and had to wait 4 years before getting their Giga. Carowinds got 2 coasters right away, and though one was a hyper coaster from B&M, the other was nothing special. And they too had to wait another 5 years before getting a new coaster. Right away, we see King's Dominion clearly got the best and biggest investments in the beginning. They got a B&M Floridas, which probably cost them around $20 million, and a $25 million Intimate Giga. The other parks either got one $25 million coaster or nothing at all, besides for Carowinds, which also got another smaller coaster. The investments that Cedar Fair gave Carowinds cost less than King's Dominion, and Carowinds had to wait another 5 years for their next coaster. When you consider that, it makes sense why King's Dominion had to wait 8 years for Twisted Timbers. The only problem is King's Dominion didn't open a $30 million Fury 325. They opened a $10 million RMC. To understand why King's Dominion's recent coasters have been on the cheaper side, we need to look at I-305. Why did Cedar Fair give King's Dominion an Intimate Giga coaster? Why not give them a B&M Hyper coaster like they were giving to all their other parks? The reason King's Dominion got an Intimate Giga is because of Busch Gardens. Busch Gardens Williamsburg is right down the road from King's Dominion, and they already had a B&M Hyper and a few other B&M models. That led Cedar Fair to give King's Dominion a flawless coaster from B&M and an Intimate Giga, since B&M hadn't come out with their Giga coaster yet. It's fair to say this park would have been much better off if B&M's Giga model was available 2 years earlier and they got it instead of I-305. Intimidator 305 ended up being too intense for the general public, and though it's loved by coaster enthusiasts, it's likely never brought the park a return on investment. Now, you can understand why King's Dominion has been getting inexpensive coasters the past few years. The park needs to take a break to recoup the money they've lost on I-305, and they've been doing that by taking a big gap after I-305 for Twisted Timbers and by getting an RMC and a 4D free spin. Both these coasters help round out the park for a low price tag and give the park time to recoup the I-305 losses. I think King's Dominion will make a comeback with a crazy Volcano replacement. I don't think they will get a B&M wing coaster. That was rumored for King's Dominion, but I think they will be getting something a lot bigger. Volcano was a revolutionary coaster and the park's icon, so they need something good, like really good. I have a really good video that goes through the possible coasters they could get. Go watch it if you want, but here's a quick summary. A coaster that will be a great investment to King's Dominion, in my opinion, would be a B&M Giga. I know they already have a Giga, but if they got a B&M Giga on top of I-305, I don't think anyone would complain. Plus, Hershey Park did that exact thing. They weren't happy with their Intamin Hyper Skyrush, so they got a B&M Hyper just a few years later. A B&M Giga would do wonders for King's Dominion, and would not be shocked if this replaces Volcano. The other coaster I think the park could get is the S&S Axis coaster. The Axis has the power of becoming the best ride in the park, and maybe even one of the best in the world. The price fits directly in their budget, and the coaster fits right in their lineup. I hope King's Dominion does this because it is literally perfect. King's Dominion could also go the Six Flags way, and after an RMC hybrid and free spin, add an RMC Raptor clone. If King's Dominion gets a Raptor, they'll have both of RMC's popular models, leaving Busch Gardens with no ability to work with RMC without being late to the game. There wouldn't be a B&M Giga or an Axis, it would still be an awesome ride. One interesting thing is that besides Cedar Point, the only Cedar Fair parks that got RMCs so far are the former Paramount parks that didn't get B&M Hypers. Just something I noticed. I predict that by 2030, King's Dominion will have opened another 2 coasters after Timberline, with one of them costing at least $20 million. I predict they will open at least one B&M, and if it's not a Giga, maybe the Surf. I also think they will get a Hyper Coaster or Giga Coaster, and if not the B&M Giga, a Mack Hyper or RMC T-Rex could both be possibilities. Cedar Fair took King's Dominion up and then knocked them all the way down. So much so that I call it the rise and fall and rise again of King's Dominion. Is it Cedar Fair's fault that this park is in trouble? Click here to see how Cedar Fair is destroying King's Dominion.